The most frustrating single issue voters this election cycle, by far, are the people voting based off of abortion access. Abortion is not on the table this election. The Supreme Court already ruled that this is a state level issue. The president can't just overturn a Supreme Court decision. So Kamala is lying to you when she acts like she can just overturn the Supreme Court decision to leave abortion up to the states. Secondly, Donald Trump doesn't want a national abortion ban. Donald Trump has already made it very clear that he supports the Supreme Court's decision to leave this issue up to the states.
And he's 100% right about that. And a lot of people, I believe, needs to take a civics course um, prior to, like, that should be required in high school. It definitely should be required for immigrants and people coming into this country, even if you come over here illegally. But everybody should be required to take a civics course because most people don't understand. Even when it came to everybody saying, "Oh man, he wants to be a dictator." Listen, even if he did, it wouldn't make any difference because that's why we have layers of government that then protects the United States of America and protects our rights in the Constitution, and then also the Supreme Court that also upholds whatever it is that's basically installed by the people based off of reasonable thought. So when you see them, for example, Kamala Harris say, "Well, we gonna go ahead and knock out abortion and get this taken care of, even after the Supreme Court removed Roe v. Wade." It's not gonna happen because first of all, she doesn't have the ability to be able to get it through Congress in order to ensure that this is taken care of. We don't even have legislators that can get a budget together without them having multiple different extensions and then taking a vacation and having more extensions. So what makes you think she'll be able to get this passed, which she won't? And this is not an issue that plays out in this election cycle. Interestingly enough, it's the only issue that they have to be able to run on. And they also using fear mongering in these issues as though they can do anything, but they know that they can just play on your emotions, and then that's supposed to be something important. More importantly, it's almost as though when I see people say stuff like, yeah, this and Project 2025, again, these are things that are not real, that don't play into anything that's going on in this election because the real issues is things that they can have bipartisan agreement on and you won't actually get removed, which is one of the reasons why that bad deal when it came to the migrant crisis wasn't able to pass, is because it had so much bloatware in it. And one of the things that Republicans and Democrats were saying, including Bernie Sanders, was that these were separate issues that they were all trying to pass as one big legislative bill. So, for example, continuously funding these proxy wars was supposed to be a part of the whole Homeland Security bipartisan deal that then got killed in the beginning of 2024 to end of 2023, which they then undid all of those everything that Trump had put into place to prevent us from having all of these migrants coming into this country in the first place. So, what they can do versus what they're proposing to do is two different things, and I need people to be able to separate the two. If you're going to vote on somebody based off of how you feel about them or how they feel about a specific issue, then that's one thing. But their capability of being able to get things through is a whole nother conversation. So when Trump says, for example, he wants to end the war because he'll be able to get both sides together because he has a relationship to be able to implement some level of diplomacy with Russia, I believe him. I believe him. That is an important thing that I think that he should be able to do. However, we can even go back to Trump and his whole border wall and the immigration that he received, all of this pushback from which Kamala Harris then ultimately came back and said, oh no, Trump was right on the border when she had her CNN town hall and Anderson Cooper actually pressed her. We can see that obviously Congress and everybody, including her that was a part of the Senate, was able to fight him and determine whether or not he was able to get the funding needed in order to make sure that we continue to have protections in the United States of America. And the Biden administration and them, they created a problem that they now saying that they're going to fix, and we know that that's not going to happen. More importantly, this is the biggest issue, is that, again, Kamala Harris, who largely was looked at to be one of the worst vice presidents of all time, is an extension of Biden. And she cast the most tie-breaking votes in the Senate because she's essentially the president of the Senate when you're the vice president of the United States of America. So we can hold her accountable for a lot of the things that's happening today in society that she don't want to take responsibility for. Let's continue.
Secondly, if you want to protect women's rights, why are you voting for the people who basically want to erase sex based protections in the law? Because they're trying to include gender identity in the classes of people who can be protected under anti discrimination laws. So if there's a situation where it's someone being discriminated against based on their gender identity up against someone who's being discriminated based on their sex, who's going to win that case? That should not be unclear, but Democrats are making it unclear by now including gender identity and who gets protected under anti discrimination laws, which can mean anything that anybody wants it to mean. So if you really want to protect women's rights, vote for Donald Trump, not only because he's moderate on abortion, but also because he doesn't want to erase sex-based protections in the law.
And also and y'all should fear that. That's the thing that women don't understand. I'm gonna make two more points, and then we're gonna wrap this up. First things is women don't even realize that they're voting against their own best interest. It's almost like it's almost like them advocating for women to be identified as whatever you want to identify a woman as, but then don't want to allow for them to be able to beat your ass inside of the ring when it comes to men, biological men, then transitioning over into women and identifying as women. And so you vote on it based off of what you think is going to serve you. And you really don't realize that you're voting against your own best interest. Secondly, why would y'all even embrace this demonic behavior in the first place and trying to make sure that we separate gender versus identity and sex? And then that's how they're able to finesse the bills to then disclude you and then prioritize people that identify what they want to identify as instead of you as a biological woman. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I just don't get why people don't see that this party is the party that is going to keep you oppressed, and they're going to remove your priority and your rights as not only Americans but as women and as men. And it's silly, it's sickening, it's dumb. And she will not be able to get anything done. But I'm looking forward to what's going to happen on November 5th. And I'm looking forward to see how people are going to vote and whether or not we see more people in the United States of America that's delusional, or if they actually standing on business and they identify and they get back to the thing that actually benefited them over the last 8 years. Because you got two distinct candidates, and Donald Trump is basically, even though his moral compass, and he's saying that I don't believe that we should get rid of babies, unwanted babies, as a form of contraception. We leave that up to the states, and we want to have less government involvement in that. And we don't think that that should be a federal issue. That should be a state's issue. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. As usual, I always like to link back to the content creator. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. And then get your tickets to come and kick it with me in person. December 14th, I will be here in Detroit. It's going to be popping. I love y'all. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.